You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Well, good morning, Gabe. How are you? Well, I'm doing very well. Yeah, things are going quite nicely. How's life in the big house? Uh, yeah, and that's one of the things I want to talk about. The relationships that people have in prison. It's just nasty. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it, there's human nature. People are going to do things, and what can you do? What can you do to stop them? And I guess we can educate and talk and make the public aware, but until we can motivate the people to make changes in their own life, and for a lot of us, what we consider abnormal and destructive and terrible, these folks think are normal, and it's the lifestyle they choose. Okay, yeah, I definitely respect that. And these two people, they're acting. I guess if anything, they're doing it against the rules and the procedures, and they know better. The relationships between incarcerated people, although it can never be stopped, just like mass shooting can never be stopped, it can be monitored, and we can get some counseling for it. So there are things we can do for the people that's already done it, but to prevent people from having relationships like that within prison, it's almost like stopping them from getting drugs and other contrabands snuck in there. Well, I would say that, well, in the women's prison, especially in Washington, we've got transgender people. And so a woman in the cell with a biological male feels a little more comfortable doing that kind of stuff than maybe two women, two biological women. But I'm not going to pretend to understand the sexual nature of people, and that's something that's new in today's society. We this gender ID is here to stay. It's not going to go away. We can say whatever we want and push whatever we want, but even in countries that ban homosexuality and the LGBTQ community, there's people that do it. It's just like religion. You ban Christianity someplace, people will sneak off and do it. And so I wish people would just accept that not everybody's designed the same way. We think differently, and we have our rights to our opinions. Racism isn't a very popular thing, but it's here. And as long as they're not breaking the law, and that's the way I look at it, as long as these people aren't breaking the law, breaking any rules, breaking any agreements, let them be. And I've spoken to a lot of people in and out of prison who have actually succeeded in doing these things behind the scenes. Two women will have a relationship in
You have
prison,
60 seconds
and
remaining.
it continues when they get out. I really don't see too many of them last very long, but there are instances where it does last. And then there are those who change. They have a very good relationship within the prison. When they get out, they just move on to different things. Just kind of adapt to their situation. Right, right. And that could be the case with the incident that happened there. Just,
You have 30 seconds remaining.
but I hope we'll all learn to accept this and to deal with it in the best way possible, which is pretty much allow people to be themselves and not use that against them. If they're going to fight people, fight them for their opinions. Something that can be changed, but human nature. Oh well, but it is what it is. Okay, yeah, you have a good day too, and thanks for the
Thank
call.
you for using inmate call. Goodbye.
Hello, welcome to AQS Inmate Call, and I'm your host, Joel Wilborn. Now, in this episode, I'm going to talk about something that's very personal to me, and I've learned a lot about it, and there's things that are going on in the world. They change, day by day, minute by minute. But currently, we've got this drive to try to reduce crime, and they're coming up with a lot of different solutions to it, and recommendations. I've discovered a few things along my life that I've found to be quite successful because I've applied them, and I like to share the success along the way. And I think one tool that's often overlooked, and hopefully we can get it out there, because I picked up a campaign where I've let the women in the Washington Correction Center for Women know that if they're looking for somebody, maybe love, maybe a friendship, or just somebody to talk to, I can make a video for them. They'll send me a script, call me up, read the script. I'll get photographs. Either they'll send me the photographs or I can pick them up at other sources, and then post the video where we can hear the person talking, saying exactly what she wants to say, and then giving contact information. And for some folks that just click right, this is very successful for them. And it puts me in an interesting position because my girlfriend did the same thing. I contacted her. She was referred to me by somebody else, and I was working with her. And she was saying that I heard that you do these things, and I said, well, okay, let's make one. So she made a video. We sent it out, and then we opened up dialogue, which is something I like to do. I like to just do icebreaker questions, or maybe just ask what's going on. If there's family they need to contact, any message they need to get out. And during that conversation, we developed a relationship. And so she asked me to take that video down. And so now we're just working on building up this relationship. Neither one of us really expect too much out of it. But, she's got quite a bit of time left. And so if the conversation continues, who knows? And that's usually the way I go into these things. Now, years ago, I was an undercover agent for the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and I wanted to fight drug addiction, drug sales, profiting from people suffering like that. It's just that drug epidemic really got under my skin, and I wanted to do something directly about it. So I joined the law enforcement. And I went out and I started fighting, and I was bringing people to justice, and it was making me very happy until one day I was sitting out on a drug deal, and it was taking a little longer than expected. So my informant was sitting next to me, and she was not aware of me being an undercover agent. And I was just talking to her, small talk, and then I asked her why she was doing this kind of stuff, why she was selling drugs and using drugs. And the answer she gave me just blew me away. This wasn't some evil vixen or some devil demon from the dark side. This was a human being trying to do what she thought was best in her life. And me, being from the other side, would look at it and say, no, that's terrible. But when I looked at it from her point of view, this was her life. This is who she was. And nothing I say could do would change it. I just had to accept it. And maybe if she reached out, be there for her. it just ran with me. And then, of course, I met my future wife, and she was one of the people that came to us for help, and we couldn't help her, but I, on the personal side, could. And we wound up getting married, and we stayed married for right around 10 years. And I consider that quite successful. And she wound up not being too happy, but that was her lifestyle. And I can't change it. I can just do what I can. I can just be there. When people are in state like that, you don't lie to them. You don't tell them everything's going to be okay. You'll find a solution. You'll be fine. You just say when you need some help, I'll be there, and then you do what you can to be there. And they got to understand too that there's you have a life. I have a life. They understand that. And so I kind of thought maybe instead of dating the traditional woman, I date the prison woman. But I would have relationship after relationship, and some lasted for a little bit, some didn't. But it was just the process, and it didn't bother me because I enjoy meeting people. I even had a little commitment where I'd meet at least 2 new people a week. Was able to do that for a while, and dating was a good way to do it. If it lasted, I was happy, but I learned over the years just be happy in the moment. Right now, you guys are listening to this podcast. You have your life that's going on with you. You may or may not be in a relationship. You may be happily married. That's your life. That's what pleases you. And for this moment, you don't really want to change it. And if there is something in your life you want to change, you'll work toward changing it. But you're alive for the moment. Tomorrow, we don't know. Yesterday, we know everything about it, but it's gone. Can't change it. And so living for the moment, for me, works. And right now, I have a girlfriend who is in the Washington Correction Center for Women. And we have a very good relationship for the moment. Maybe in a podcast in 3 or 4 years, it might be different. But for now, I'm quite happy. And that's the way I do. I live each day, day by day. Something I learned in the 70s. Those hippies would run around and say, enjoy the day, enjoy the moment. Don't do war. Don't plan into the future. Just live and have fun. And it was neat to get up in the morning and just have fun, and then go to bed and think, hey, I made it through another day. And you wake up, wow, got a brand new day, brand new opportunities, brand new issues. And so living day by day and having a relationship with somebody who's locked up works for me. Now, I've been through quite a few, but when I look back on it, it's really not a lot. I mean, I could have had 15, 16 different relationships since I've been working in the prisons for over 40 years, but I don't. I just have a handful, pretty much less than 10. That's good. And when I think back on it, yeah, I consider that a success. Why not? But that works for me. And maybe 1 or 2 people that I talk to, somebody recommends somebody who talks with me and gets out, and we work together and we find the resources, and this person doesn't go back to prison. To me, that's success. I like that. And so rather than create new laws or restrict rights, let's just sit down with folks. And when you go online and you search for prison pen pals or something, you'll get several different sites that are out there. And these people pretty much write, I'm in prison, and there's not a lot that say why, but they'll say who they are, how old they are, what they're looking for. Some of them say a man or woman, long-lasting relationship, or just a woman or just a man. And you can see pictures of them. They try to pick the most flattering pictures, and that's understandable. Who wouldn't? Some of them say I got a little extra weight. Some say I'm very athletic, and they're trying to tease you, to draw you in. And that's what I promote too. I said, you're selling yourself. Sell this product to the people. See what they want to buy. What would you want to hear if you were doing all of this? And I just like to add the extra voice in there so that you can hear them. Usually when you're just reading these things like you see on some of the pages out there, you don't really get the sound of them. Like there was one girl, I answered her ad, and when I spoke to her on the phone, she had a really deep southern twang. which I like because I'm from the South. I myself have one too when I'm around them, and so I could feel my twang coming back out too. And it was just comfortable talking to her. But it wasn't one of those relationships I expected to last a long time because she was in another state. And but she for the moment felt good. I for the moment felt good, and that's what she wanted. She just wanted to attract someone like me, and it was nice. I really enjoyed that. And I learned some stuff about the prison that she was in because she was very open, and she would call me on a regular basis, and it worked for me. And I didn't expect a lot of it, neither did she, and that's that. And nobody was disappointed or overly excited. We pretty much got what we wanted, and you can't ask for better than that. And if you really want to know what's going on in prison, watching a documentary, watching a TV series or something, or listening to folks on YouTube or podcasts that were former inmates and they're talking about stuff, you don't really get everything because those are limited. If you want to know what's going on here and now at that prison that's just across the street, you talk to somebody who's in there now. That's the moment. And I hear all kinds of things across the state because I'm in contact with a lot of people. I would recommend that if you're looking for information about the prisons, if you're curious about what goes on in there, if you want to know, right, rather than ask me, because if people ask like, well, what goes through his mind? Why did he commit the crime? Why don't you ask yourself? And just like you, if there's things that make you feel uncomfortable and you don't want to answer, you'll not answer it, or you'll just drop off, or maybe you just say, this is not. I don't feel comfortable with this relationship. Let's separate or something. I mean, that's the worst case scenario. But if they're happy and they're saying, hey, whatever question you have, let's go ahead and answer or ask it, and I'll give you the best answer I can. But you don't know until you try. Try going to one of these pen pal sites and just maybe sign up for the electronic service, and you'll see just how much it costs to communicate with a person. When you send an email for free, it's nice, or a text message that's unlimited, that's nice. But imagine spending money for everything you send out, which is their way of making money. They love making money off of people who are locked up and who are reaching out to talk to somebody. So that's one thing you'll learn. And you send something out and you get a response from somebody. And it could be exciting for you. It could be mysterious. But if that's what you're looking for, give it a try. It's not for everybody. But there are some people out there that just kind of try things and it's not working for them, but they haven't tried this for whatever reason. You won't know till you do send a letter out. I had a coworker that did that. He had a pretty good little run with the girl, but things didn't work out. He wasn't devastated. He didn't want to jump off a bridge. But he learned something, and we have something we can talk about when I communicate with him. When I start talking about emails and other people in there, he understands. There's time I'll watch a crime show, and I'll say, "Oh, this person is in Washington," and since I have a account with Washington prisons, I can reach out to this person, and I've met a few people like that. I read a newspaper article, "Oh, this person's in the Washington prison," and reach out to them. And then I can get sides of the story that nobody else hears. I like that. And then if it's really interesting, or I think it's going to be a popular item, I can share it on the podcast or on my YouTube channel. I do interviews with the people and ask, what could we do as a society to prevent you from committing crimes like this? I'll ask things about, do you think a ban on assault weapons is going to stop people from committing crimes? If you want to stop crime, you need to find the person who's going to commit the crime before that person commits the crime, and then work to give this person the motivation not to commit the crime. It's up to the person, 100%. But you could say something, do something, offer something that might motivate this person. It's like I dealt with teenagers when I was doing foster parenting. And you could offer money. I'll give you $20 to mow the lawn. There's a teenager that will jump out there, grab the lawnmower, and cut the grass. But the other's like, no. But if you offered them the car for the weekend, or if you got them a new game, sometimes that would motivate them. And I had to learn each teenager that I had in my care what motivated each of them. Some of them, drugs really motivated them, or women, um, clothing, material possessions and stuff. And these are things that I could or could not provide, but it just depended on the situation. And so motivating people can be done through communication. So if we want to learn how to prevent somebody from committing a crime, we need to talk to people who's already done it. So we have these resources that are already locked up. We can stop the people who are locked in prison from committing crimes again, and we can get information from them that we could share with the public that somebody might hear, see, or experience, and then turn away from crime. There's so many near misses out there that we'll never know about. You might have been standing in line at checkout in a grocery store, and a person in front of you is just upset about something, and then you might reach out. It's like you'll say something, and that could make a difference, and you'll never know. And but you won't make a difference if you don't try. And being a pen pal, for me, has been very fulfilling. I really enjoy it. I've got dozens of people on my account, and I'm talking to people every day. They're calling me constantly, and a lot of them get these free stamps for their email or free phone calls, and so it's not going to really cost you for the initial. Well, for the initial, yeah. If you send out an email to them, it will cost you, but eventually you can get it reduced by doing it at certain days and times and stuff. And then, like in the state of California, it's free for them to call. So they could call you, and you can just call on a regular basis. And then maybe you'll learn something to tell your little brother or your next door neighbor or coworker. That will make a difference. And if we band together and we do this and we just open this communication, we can really put a dent in this crime. I mean, to the point where it's crippled. Not banning books or banning weapons or restricting access. These things, these people are in prison because they don't follow the rules. They don't obey the law. And telling them you got to obey the law isn't going to keep them out of prison. They're in prison because they committed a crime. They broke the law. But what can keep them out is a good mental wellness. And we have that power within us to help people to relax and to feel good about themselves. And my girlfriend, as I'm talking to her, she had a very rough childhood, and there's things she's looking for. She's just looking to belong. Who doesn't want to belong? And one of the signs of suicide is when people withdraw. And I'm not saying someone like me, I'm an introvert, I like to be alone. But there's people out there that are talkative and they like to hang out with their friends, they socialize, and then they suddenly stop. And then they're buying things like knives and pistols and maybe swords, something that could kill them. And as you're communicating with people and talking to friends and relatives and stuff, and you see this change, you might want to take action. And somebody who's going to commit a crime, it's not too different. There's certain things that show up. And the only way you're going to know that is to talk to people who've been there. A counselor who's talked to folks can maybe relay some. But if you're talking directly to somebody who committed murder, and that person tells you this is some of the things that got me into that. Yeah, that might help you. And remember, though, there not a lot of them like to talk about the crime. Being in prison is traumatic, and those who feel guilty about the crime, they really want it to be behind them. They want it to go away, and a lot of them want to pay retribution. They want to try to do the best they can to make up for the crime, and that's the kind of stuff you can look for too. So if you like those podcasts about true crime, you want to know what's going on through their mind, don't take a guess. Don't listen to a third party or a fourth party. Talk to the person directly. And email really isn't going to kill you. And you learn a lot. And just tune into my YouTube channel. Take a look at some of the interviews. Listen to one of those and just maybe make a comment, or you can directly contact me, and maybe you can contact that person. Get the full story. You would be surprised at the things you can learn just by talking to somebody who's in prison. I know I was talking to a person who's in the Walla Walla prison, and he said that a person had put some baked potatoes in a sock and started beating another person. So then they came out and said, no more baked potatoes for the inmates. And of course, they're all upset. They have to get mashed potatoes or scalloped potatoes, and they can't do the baked potatoes. And I personally like baked potatoes, but that's not something that you'll hear broadcast. So we want to really pay attention to that kind of stuff. And when we know what's going on in there and people are aware that prison is bad because it's advertised that way, but it's even worse in real life. I mean, my ex-fiance picked up cancer. I was excited about it. We were planning a big future, but then when she developed cancer and I found out it was pretty much the complete fault of the Department of Corrections, I learned something by going through the process of helping her to win a lawsuit. And so I picked up some tools I could use as prison reformist, all because I'm communicating. And you can take away all these automatic weapons, but if you're talking to a person in a prison and says, the reason I'm here is because my parents abused me, they treated me so bad, and I wanted to get away from them, and I just wound up in the wrong crowd, wound up in the wrong place at the wrong time. And as you're thinking about it and working with them, how can you prevent somebody else from doing that? And maybe you'll see a sign that nobody else notices, only a trained professional would see. But because you were talking to somebody. And then maybe, who knows, you might connect with a person in prison, and then when the person gets out, you can go hang out. Or you might reconnect with somebody that you hadn't seen in a long time. It's like, I did not know this person was in prison. And maybe you had a little fling earlier in life, and you could rebuild it because something that you have, this person is looking for to help motivate and move on. But communication, I think, is big. And I really recommend a pen pal. Just look into it and see what you think. And you've got nothing to lose. Well, maybe a little bit of money. You buy some stamps. Maybe $5, buy some stamps. Send out a few emails. This doesn't work. And maybe you try a couple of them. It just didn't work. But look at those pictures. Read those profiles. And then just kind of send a little, hello, how are you? You can go online and find icebreaker questions. If you had a superpower, what would it be? And it's fun, I think. And then you can see what the DLC is really like. And that's my main goal. I want people to see the truth, not these little covered up press releases and stuff that we get. Well, hopefully you guys will communicate with each other, look for signs of a crime, and help reduce crime in your neighborhood, help reduce the prisons, and help beef up the justice system. We don't need innocent people being locked away, and we certainly don't need people abused in the justice system. And it starts with us looking at mirror, and that person looking back at you can make a big change. Thanks for tuning in. Go out, have yourself a marvelous day, and make fantastic memories for tomorrow.